Hey, good evening. This is Tiger. Welcome to my stream. Tonight AJ won't be able to moderate because she's already sleeping, but nevertheless, welcome to this additional extra stream on Tuesday night. As always, please respect the disclaimer. We are talking about playing a computer game and leave the real world railway stuff, trains and installations alone. What I wanted to do tonight is to have another look at the ICE-3M Baureihe 406 train. What is an interesting train altogether, and I was always fascinated by all the indicators and buttons that are in this train. Yay, CD Radar, you are home again. Happy to hear that. So you made it back safely from the Netherlands. That is a good occasion to look at Dutch train control. Now that you made it home by plane safely. Yeah, what I was actually trying to say is I was always fascinated by all the buttons and indicators in the ICE-3M. Was the first ICE train that I ever saw in the game. Maybe the first modern train at all after playing Sandpatch Grade. And I did not have a clue what all this stuff meant and did not know enough about trains at all to see that all those buttons here are actually something out of the ordinary. And so I just took it for granted that they are here. But this is the only train in the game that has those buttons as far as I know, and what a coincidence. Yeah, and I'm actually running, as you can see, the normal livery today, because I forgot to switch on the Tigerway livery, but I don't want to have you think that I'm promoting my own livery here all the time. So I think we will just run this train a bit here from Aachen towards Köln, and as soon as we are safe in the LZB zone and running with 250 maximum line speed, and then we will talk about those buttons, the RZRAN, this funny thingy here, TBL, and the buttons here on that side and the indicators. I have tried to figure something out. I have found a document describing this ATBL system on a TGV. It was a document in Dutch, so I hope I understood everything well enough to at least give you an idea what those things are for. CD Radar says I was sitting right behind drivers can on airport train and I noticed some sounds from there. Yeah, cool. So did you know what the sounds meant? I always liked it when I'm sitting next to the driver's cabin in the trains here in Germany, and I always hear the PZB sounds. Beep, beep. Okay. We just passed 1,000 hertz magnet. I actually almost managed to sit in this lounge a couple of weeks ago in an ICE. I actually got a seat there, a reservation for a seat there, and then unfortunately the train was cancelled because of bad weather conditions, and I had to ride on a different train, and I did not get to sit in this lounge here. No, obviously that's what you should tell me. Okay, I cannot really tell you about how the system does work in action. I've read a bit how it is supposed to work in action, but since it is not functional in the game, I can only speculate what it probably will do. Funny enough, it is a pulse code cap signaling system, part of it. Part of it is a balise-based system, not unlike the ECTS level 1 full supervision. And all in all, the system that is running here has been called a forerunner for the ECTS computer, the European Vital Computer. So it can actually run under the headline of European Train Control. Because the idea is actually that this train can not only run in Germany, but also in Switzerland, in Belgium, and in the Netherlands. And from what I've read, there also have been some trains that had the equipment to go to France and run TBM and KBB and the Krokodil system. Schließvorgang eingeleitet. Doors are closed and we are all set to leave. So, after getting used to my orange striped Tigerways ICE, it's almost a bit dull to see them in white. They did a lot to the Schnellfahrstrecke Köln-Aachen in terms of busying the timetable, and now we are getting even a newer timetable, as was promised by Matt on the Trains in World 4 stream the other night. Purportedly, Joe the Fish Burgess made one. So there is something that we can actually look forward to. Can you hear the church bells? Running out of Aachen is line speed limit of 40 anyway, so there is no point in interrupting the starting program. That sound from the black trucks. Does the black trucks actually have a different sound? That is something actually that I'm never aware of, if there is a problem with the sound. Well, let's hope that only half of what was promised for Trains in World 4 will actually work as intended, and then we will have really a lot of very valuable improvements to the game. So, first part of the route, we are not in LZB controlled country, but in a PZB controlled country. A limit to 100. Somewhere around here we're going into a limit of 120, even though there is no actual sign to signal that. Only at the end of this little yard here there will be a signal with a ZS3 indicating 120. What would be a limit? What does not make too much sense, because the line speed is already at 120 here. Did you see? Now 140. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, go. What is a bit annoying on this train is this strange reflection in the windscreen. So I have never found out whether this is intentional or some kind of a bug. But sometimes this is actually so bad that it might trigger epileptic fits. Again, I'm using the AFB more like a limiter, setting the speed that I want and then adjusting the power. Those tunnels look nice now with those lighting, with this lighting inside. We'll see what tunnels look like in Train Sim World 4. If there is any improvement to the light baking and the eye adaptation. So let's apply the brakes a bit so that we don't overspeed. Just running downhill here. The AFB won't totally prevent us from overspeeding by 1 or 2 clicks, so it can't hurt. Now a reduction to 120 is announced. So we'll brake to that. Here is it, the LF7 120. We're passing the station. Next reduction to 110 is announced. That's only 10 clicks. So we can just shave it off with the first step of train brake. Oh, we set the throttle to 0. Here it is, the LF7 with the 11. Always set the throttle to off so that you don't get stuck in the traction lock. What really will be interesting to see in Train Sim World 4 is how they handle this new scoring system. As far as I saw, they already took back some steps and won't punish you for braking too harshly. So we will see what will be left of it. If it is just you're getting more points with the safety systems on, or if you actually get punished for getting a penalty break for releasing improperly or something like this. Matt already said that they won't punish you for not using the proper 14L sequence or the horn at all. And in the 160, 0, 1, 2, 3, and go. But this obviously opens up for a lot of possible annoyances if you're getting punished for doing things correctly because the game thinks you should do something else, or vice versa. This week I won't be on Sunday because I will do my 250 subscribers on YouTube celebratory 12-hour stream on Saturday. Most probably I won't be on Sunday because I have to do all the other stuff that I usually do on Saturday. On Sunday this week. So, now we're in this stretch of track. Well, we are limited to 160, still running under PZB. Again, scrape off some speed so that we don't overspeed. And soon enough we will hit the beginning of the LZB line. Since it is this vintage equipment for LZB, we will get this quite annoying Schnarre sound, and all the guidance values will pop up on our display. With some clouds in the sky, the lighting is usually better. Also this time. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if we could take this train actually to the Netherlands or to Belgium? What I did not do is try if this train can pick up the Euro signals on Luzern-sur-See. I probably can't. One thing that I noticed on this train though is that this blind here actually locks out the sunlight that disturbs you on your indicators and stuff. This is not happening on every train. Now LZB. Still 160 even though we are on LZB. There is no restriction incoming, we will always get the line speed here as the target speed. Going through this steel bridge close to Düren. And after passing Düren, we should be allowed to go 200 and then 250. Düren always easily recognizable because of the turntable, and target speed increased to 200. And our GTO thyristor powered traction motors are whirling up to even higher frequencies. Now give us the 250, please. And here we go. According to its classification, this train is allowed to go 330 kilometers per hour, but not on this track here. And I don't think that there is any German line where they actually go 330 on a regular schedule. 320 maybe is max. So now LZB is already telling us that somewhere in front of us we will have to stop. This is why we get a 0 on the target speed indicator. But since this indicator here is giving us a 9,900, we know that it is still far, far ahead. So we can go safely until this G lamp will turn on. And this is where I want to switch in the presentation and talk about the ATBL system. So, presentation is on. This is our MFA 20 display that we have just seen. On the right, the speed clock, obviously. To the left, the indicator that tells us if we are applying throttle, then this needle will go to the right, or if we are applying dynamic dash electric brakes, then it will go to the left. And obviously needle is showing us, and this little red dot is telling us what the train wants the train to do. And in the middle, obviously for LZB. So those indicators here are obviously the ones that everybody knows, the PZB indicators for PZB-U 55, M70 and O 85 indicators. If they are lighting, or if they are lit steadily, then that shows you that this mode of PZB is on at the moment. If they are flashing, then you will have a monitoring and so on. Also the yellow and the red lamp, there are a lot of videos explaining PZB also on my channel, the Befehl 40, if you want to pass a 2000 Hertz magnet at the red signal. This is what we know. Typically those 6 indicators you can find even on the smallest locomotive that has at least PZB 90. This stuff is associated with the LZB. Obviously, the B indicator should be illuminated as soon as LZB is turned on the train. This is something that does not work on this train in the model in the game. The B indicator only lights up when the U indicator, the umlaut indicator, also lights up. It should be lit before that, but they only start being lit when you actually get in LZB territory. The S is for the Zwangsbremsung, the penalty brake, then this lamp will light up. The G is the brake demand indicator, telling you that it would be nice to start applying brakes, otherwise it might get close to a penalty brake. The H would be the light that you missed a LZB Halteauftrag, so if the dispatcher sends you a deliberate command to stop your train somewhere. So this is what this indicator is associated with. E40 and V40 are Ersatzauftrag, Vorsichtsauftrag, where is more or less the LZB variant for the Ersatzsignal ES1, and the Vorsichtssignal, the one with the 3 yellow lights arranged in a V-shaped fashion, what tells you to go drive on site, more or less. The EL is the indicator that tells you that you should lower your pantograph and switch off the main circuit breaker. So this is something that can be sent into the train via the LZB transponder. So all those different Aufträge, they are not implemented in the game, and the E, obviously the yellow one, is for the end procedure in LZB, and you have all the implementations around your speed clock in this indicator here that tell you the LZB Führungsgrößen. But that is not our topic actually. Not so is the SIfa light that we all know, that lights before the SIfa lady ask you. Yeah, shame that it is not in the game. Maybe we will get that sometime with the Ersatzauftrag, Vorsichtsauftrag, and so on. We have the corresponding signals in the game, so why not on LZB as well? This indicator here, HS aus, Hauptschalter aus, would be lit as soon as the main circuit breaker is off. This is the doors indicator. It is off if the doors are closed. It is flashing if the doors are just opened or closing, and it is lit constantly if the doors are open. We still have not been able to figure out what the blue version of this T indicator actually does on the Baureihe 182, the Taurus. Not even Ronnie knew that, right? CD Radar. We still have to find that out. This is Notbremse, emergency brake. I'm not entirely sure when this indicator will be lit. it is possible that it's connected with the Notbremsüberbrückungssystem, with the system that allows the driver to suppress an emergency brake demand issued by some passenger. And if you are in a piece of track where it is not advisable to stop the train, like in a tunnel, for example, especially if your train is on fire, then this might be part of the system that allows the driver to suppress this emergency brake demand for a limited time. So some systems work in that way that an indicator like this one lights up as soon as a passenger hits the emergency brake a lever in the train, and then the driver has a short amount of time to intervene and to suppress this. And if she or he does not do that, then there will be an emergency brake application, and if he does, then it will be delayed until the driver allows it to happen. Maybe we should have a video about the different systems of Notbremsüberbrückung as well sometime, but since it is not very likely that our passengers in the game will ever initiate an emergency brake application so far, maybe in future when we get random events of that time, or get multiplayer possibilities where other players can always pull the emergency brake in the train. So what do we have here? We have the U indicator, the umlaut indicator, what is labeled ECTS. Probably this is meant to be the ETCS, same typo that that always happens to me. The European train control system obviously also works with an U indicator, indicating that the system is now active and receiving data. Those buttons in the middle with the yellow frame now, I was not able to confirm it, but possibly this is actually for running this train in Switzerland. Switzerland at the time having the Euro Signum system, part of the, or a successor to the Integra Signum system, what was more or less a system. We have a stream about this in Luzern's Rossi, where you get a yellow light when passing a caution signal, and when running a red light, bad situation, then the red light would light up. So since it is labeled SBB, what is typically short for the Schweizerische Bundesbahn, the Swiss railway carrier, I guess that this is actually for running the train in Switzerland, but I cannot know if that is actually true. It would fit at least. So those are the things that are more or less clear. All those thingies on the left hand, we will come back to them later. Yes, Euro Signum, I put that up there. If this is possibly this. Now we want to see on our right hand side of the cab, and we have those buttons that look a bit like a game console from the 80s or something like this. It is nice and colorful, and you have those buttons. So those things with the white border are actually buttons that you can press, and the other things are indicators. And from what I've been able to find out, the upper three rows belong to the Dutch train control system called Automatische Trein-Beïnvloeding, what is automatic train control. It's the same word like in the punktuelle Zugbeeinflussung in German, more or less. And there are several generations of the system too, and the first generation, the ATB Eerste Generatie, is interestingly enough a pulse code cab signaling system, just as we know that from the Northeast Corridor or Sherman Hill also, but it does not work. It is not working in Sherman Hill. So we will have the track circuit, and in the track circuit we will have a pulsing signal, and depending on how fast the signal is pulsating, actually, you will get different aspects on your aspect display unit. And this is the aspect display unit here. So if you're supposed to go not faster than 40, then this yellow lamp will light up, and yeah, all this, we come back to this and so on. So this whole part is part of a system that is called ATBL. And why this is called ATBL? Because it is a combination of two systems, the ATB system from the Netherlands and the TBL system that is run in Belgium. So Automatische Trein-Beïnvloeding and the Transmission Balise-Locomotive that we have in Belgium, what the bottom two rows are combined in that. And the ATBL, from what I have read about it, understands the ATB Eerste Generatie, the ATB Nieuwe Generatie, or is a totally different system and a more elaborate one, and at the same time the ATBM Plus, what is an add-on to the Eerste Generatie system, and then the Belgian system up to TBL 1 Plus. Yeah, we will see what we can get from that knowledge here. So back to the Eerste Generatie, ATB Eerste Generatie, with the pulse code cap signaling system. So we have this track circuit, in Dutch, what was the word? The spoorstroomloop, I think was the word. And there is this coded signal in it, and the train gets a signal telling the train and the driver how fast it can actually go before the system will intervene. CD Radar says, oh yeah, spoor. The Netherlands Spoorwegen is the name of the Dutch railway carrier, right? The Spoorwegen. Oh, obviously it's close to the German Spur, or we don't use for railways, but it's totally what would be translated to track, actually, also. Yeah, and what does the system do? It controls the speed, Snelheid, of the train in different steps, and it cannot control by increments of 1 kilometer or 10 kilometer, but it has these different steps: 40, 60, 80, and NS, yeah, Nederlandse Spoorwegen. I think it is. Not Norfolk Southern. Or did I get anything wrong there? 40, 60, 80, 130, you see that there is a big gap between it. And then this was in the old system, all of it. The 14 did not exist in the Eerste Generatie system, but then the green light would appear, and under this system the maximum speed the train was allowed to go was 140, and this would be the green light. So obviously there are limits in between, like 90 or 100 or 110, but the system was not able to control the train to those speeds. So if the maximum speed that was allowed actually on a piece of track was 110, then you would get the 13 indication here. So you cannot go by those signals and think, okay, I can safely go 130. You obviously have to stick to the 110 that are in the timetable, or in your document that tells you how fast you can go, or in the signaling on the track. So you needed to know to stay within the 110, but the train would not interfere unless you were going more than 20 kilometers per hour too fast. So there are obviously those increments that can only take place, and it was not possible to control the train in all this in between, and it was not possible actually to control the train in the speed range below the 40 kilometers per hour. So it was only a top speed control. It was not even possible to stop a train at a red signal. So when the train was actually trying, or in the process of running a red signal, the Eerste Generatie was not able to do that because it was only a speed control system. Later, if you when trains were supposed to go faster than 140, up to 160, and this is, I think, part of the ATBM Plus system. This thing here was introduced so that the old maximum got its own aspect, and the green light will be the 160 limit at this point. And from what I've read, the system obviously was improved to actually provide some functionality to stop the train when it was in the process of passing passing a red signal. So just like a 2000 Hertz magnet in Germany, and or the train stop implementation at TPWS, and it was called an ATB plus plus or ATB plus plus, I think, ATB plus plus. With this 2000 Hertz style stopping, and after that they introduced a system with some balises in front of the red signal that would also slow down, or already slow down, the train before it even got to the red signal. There was then ATB-VV, the verbeterte Versie, that also could stop the train in front of the red signal, slow it down. Some say it's a bit like the system in PZB, but PZB does not stop the train. It also stops at the 40, because the 500 Hertz does not interfere unless the train is going slow and you get the restricted, but then it will also restrict it to 20. Yeah, so that was that from the Eerste Generatie, the cap signaling system. That was more or less like we know that from the United States pulse code cap signaling. And what are the buttons for? This ATBL button is for the Automatische Selectie. That means if you want to turn it on deliberately, don't wait for it to be turned on by some signal that you get from the track. Then you would push with 2 fingers with ATBL button and the SOS ATBL button next to it to turn on the ATB system part. This SOS ATBL button and the corresponding indicator, from what I have read in my Dutch document describing the TSW with this system, this should light up actually if the system is preventing or trying to prevent a spat incident. So if it actually tries you to stop you from passing a red signal, or at least causing mayhem afterwards, and then this signal here, this light would light up, and you probably have to push this button to release it again, but I'm not entirely sure whether this would be the release button for it or not, and since the system is not functional, I cannot actually test it. The BD button will be the Bautendienst button, what means more or less to set the system in a out of service state, Bautendienst out of service, so that it does not work properly. So something that might be something similar to a Störschalter that we have on German trains, that in case of a malfunction you can turn off the system so that it does not interfere with what you're doing. Interesting enough is the GS button, what is short for Glattspoor, what again means slippery track, glatt like in German, slippery, and Spoor, again the track. So if you actually push this button, the system would calculate longer brake curves with a less slowing down factor, but this does not apply to the cap signaling system, but also already to the ATB Nieuwe Generatie, where you actually get brake curve control, like on the LZB, for example. Lot of that in rainy Netherlands. Yes, I guess a lot of Glattspoor that they are getting there, but they are happy that they don't have a lot of gradient in the Netherlands, right? Unless they built it deliberately. So this would be the Glattspoor button, and the STS does not refer to some old Austrian rock band, but to stop, tone and sein, what is a stop displaying signal in Dutch, also a red light more or less, like, or any other signal that requires you to stop in front of it. And so this is also a button that can be lit in connection with that. In what situation actually this light would light up or that light would light up, obviously I cannot try it out, and since we don't have a Dutch route with a system of that kind running here, I did not look deeper into it. And I don't know if this STS button is then an override button, if you're actually like with the Befehlstaste in PZB or the maneuver button in the KVB system, when you're actually allowed to pass the signal. You would probably have to have a button of that kind, but this is what I was able to find out in connection with those buttons and the ATB system. Corresponding to that, on our middle panel, we have those buttons here. A G ATB, what is a bit corresponding to the G button here. It will tell you that it would be nice actually to slow down. This would be for the ATB Nieuwe Generatie, where you actually get values like in the LZB for your target speed and for your actual speed and for the speed that you should not be going faster according to the brake curve, and also on this indicator telling you how far it is to the next point where some action is required, or you need to stop or be below a certain speed. And this G button would be more or less corresponding to that one here. So Remopdracht is the brake order or brake demand. Bremsauftrag in German would be probably the best translation for it. So the train is telling you should consider slowing down. If that actually here is a button that will light up as soon as the train is actually applying the brake, or if it is a button that is telling you again that you are beyond a certain brake curve. I put it here, ATBL Rem-Ingreep, what would be actually then the application of the brake. I'm totally not sure. Maybe this is also associated with the TBL, with the Belgian system. I don't know if this thing that looks a bit like a Russian Cyrillic D would be a brake curve or a grand piano and the exclamation point. So I was not able to figure out what this indicator actually is for. The others are more easily to understand. The ROTS button would be Rijden op zicht, or is again driving on sight. So this is something that the ATBL system can give you, that you obviously have to go on site, be able to stop your train in half the distance that you can look at. The RAN will be rangeerdienst, what is shunting. So if you're actually in shunting mode, this thing will probably light up. And the TBL, on the other hand, I did not put a marker here on that because that is obviously associated with the Belgian system, the Transmission Balise-Locomotive, or would be the bottom half of this here. Again, to turn it on by hand, if you don't want to wait for it to be turned on by the balises that you're passing, you have to push this button and that button at the same time with the Automatische Selectie. And apart from that, this button here, interestingly enough, shows a signal that is a shunting signal in the Belgian system. So the shunting signals in Belgium look like this, and the mainline big signals look like that, with this very distinctive form. And by first generation of the TBL, by pushing either the shunting button or the big button, you would select a different speed control. That is petit mouvement and grand mouvement. So Don't know if I got the gender right here, but nevertheless, so this is something that comes from the TBL system here. On the oldest system, you only had those two buttons and can set your train either in shunting mode or in normal running mode. Again, we have a red light, what is obviously related with a spat incident, if that is a release button or a maneuver button. Since we have this button also, it's maybe a release button, but as soon as the system is actually modeled in the game, I will try to find out more how this is supposed to work. The system is described to have a caution acknowledge system, so in case you are getting a yellow signal, typically a caution signal warning you about an incoming stop signal or a reduction in speed limit, you will get, just like in the crocodile system, a red light that you have to acknowledge together with some sort of a sound probably, and sounds you also get when the cap signals here change around. And this signal looks a bit like the post-trip symbol in ECTS. Maybe it is the override button if you're actually allowed to pass the signal. This is the arrow on the signal. So a lot of assuming here and trying to figure out what is what. At least we can assign some of the buttons to some of the functions in the systems that are represented here. The TBL with a crossed out red line probably indicates that the TBL is not supervising what you are doing, but so far I have not been able to find a proper description of the Belgian TBL system and under what circumstances we will have this yellow lamp lit here. Yeah, that is what I can tell you about the stuff that is happening on our ICE3M train, or what is not happening, or what all those funny buttons and lights might actually be good for. And it would be really cool if at any point in time we would actually get a Dutch and a Belgian route, or more of them in the game. Since we're getting an Austrian route now, there is still hope that there will be more countries covered. This index here is now dropping, means we're getting closer to our stopping point. CD Radar asks if LZB is 2 cables or 1 in center. It is actually 2 cables, but they are both in the center and they are twirled around like every 100 meters or so. So that the train can detect those knots or twirls in the cable for easier positioning. So you can count how many times the cable switched side. Now I have to apply some brakes since the G lamp came on. At some point you can see the red dot on the speedometer drop according to the brake curve. That we have to brake along. Can we see it? Well, we can actually see the cable in the middle of the track. Not very distinctly at this speed, but in real life you can totally see it. If you are looking out of the window and looking at the track next to you. You can see when the black cable in the middle starts the LZB cable, and then you know, okay, now the train is going to speed up soon. So with the train leaving the blocks in front of us, and then we're catching up again, obviously the point where we have to stop is getting closer, and then getting further away again. This is why the G lamp comes on and goes off again, and the reading on the distance meter sometimes jumps back to a higher value. And we can, if we want, accelerate in between again. Now the red dot is actually going down, and now it jumped back up to 250 with the train in front of us leaving the block. Classic Köln, now we are stuck behind a slow train. Yeah, I think this always happens on this route. I don't recall ever encountering a service here in Köln where you don't get stuck behind a slow train and have to stop somewhere around Köln-Ehrenfeld. But on the other hand, just running smoothly along the high-speed track gets a bit boring, as we know from Schnellfahrstrecke Kassel-Würzburg. So it's always nice to have some signal action and safety system action in between. G-lamp is still on. 4000. Now the numbers got turned off, and we only have to rely on the graphical bar. What is probably not so unlike the new mini HUD system that is promised for Train Sim World 4, right? Where we should get this barber pole style indicator. See, the radar says you have a town in the Czech Republic that is called Kolín, which is Köln in Deutsch. Interesting. Do you think it is the same route as the city Cologne? If you think of Spanish, you would think maybe it is sitting on a hill. This is why it is called Kolín. Like in Colina. Don't want me to start with Czech translations of German cities. So now we're actually closing into the point where we probably have to stop. We're obviously not getting a 500 Hertz PZB. Now the signal cleared, or at least it cleared to yellow. So we can accelerate again a bit. But probably just to be slowed down for the next signal. And this is actually quite nice here, always trying to stay below the brake curve without using the AFB to slow down the train. What it would totally do. But doing it by hand makes it a bit smoother. So, do I really have to stop my train? Or can we just crawl up to it? We can crawl up to it. Signal cleared to yellow, at the same time our stop marker moved away to 1 kilometer. We don't need to acknowledge anything when passing a yellow signal while running under LZB. You're saying it is probably not allowed, but you're stopping by LZB in front of a red input throttle to drive. Train won't start moving until the signal changes and then we'll start. Yeah. This is a logical consequence, or would be a logical consequence of the AFB functionality. So you can actually have a little nap until the train goes on again. And the signal cleared again. Again, don't forget to put the throttle to off. Now line speed is 70. What we have to take care of ourselves, because since there is still a stop restriction in front of us, the LCB system is not telling us the restriction to 70. Now it is. That is the end procedure. We have to press the release key. Then the Ende indicator turns from flashing to steady. Oh, whoa, whoa. Game lags around hard again. Now it is telling us that a reduction to 60 is incoming around the corner. And 60 would also be our release speed here. And I think that this distance indicator here is the LF6 for the 60. Our distance indicator should count us down for the release. What it does here actually. Because the release is at the same point where the 60 reduction starts. If you're going the other direction towards Aachen, it just does not count down for the release, it just ends at a certain point. The next signal sequence here is the 60 LF7. The next signal sequence is actually an interesting one. We're getting a clear signal. Now it ended. And then VR2. What is typically, if not stated otherwise, indicating a reduction to 40. But pay attention what we're getting at the next, at the home signal for the Köln Hbf. It can happen that we don't get a 4 or a simple HP2 signal. But now we are already getting a 500 Hz restriction. This is why I slowed down to 40 already. And now see this 2. What is a reduction to 20? It's not what we are going to track number 2. What would be the British? Now the AFB, yeah, AFB is not reacting because I did not put it to 0. After getting out of LZB, you have to put your AFB to 0 before it starts reacting again. And now I stay below the 20. And why are we getting a 20 here? From what I have read in the German directives, this indicator set as 3 with the number 2 can also indicate that the track that you're entering might be shorter than regularly, or that you are actually running up towards a Deckungssignal, what is a signal that sometimes is used to divide the track in a station in smaller sub-blocks that can be cleared sequentially to allow a train entrance into the station while a different train is just leaving the station. And from what you can read, this is a thing that is used in Köln main station quite a lot. But there is no Deckungssignal of that kind. It would be a small signal, a bit like a shunting signal, a Schutzsignal, but not with 2 white lights in a diagonal fashion, but with only 1 little white light, an ES1 Ersatzsignal showing. And in other instances in the game we actually have this kind of signal. We have one in Oldenburg, we have one in Würzburg. No, not in Oldenburg, in Bremen actually. So the game knows that those signals exist, and I do not know whether here on this track in Köln there should be like a Ersatzsignal of that kind. Here we are. I always like this steel and glass roof construction with a slight reflection in it. And the now a bit more busy Köln main station with the IC train here. Oops. Dropped out. Wanted to see whether they have all the tracks numbered by now. Finally, our boarding process has finished. We can close our doors and finish our service. Yeah, it's always hard to make a perfect run here on those services because you always get delayed in the end. But it's still enough to make gold. Yeah, that was my stream today to introduce those funny lamps in the cab of the multisystem ICE3, the ICE3M Baureihe 406. And hopefully at some point in time we will actually get a route where we can see the stuff in action, like a route in the Netherlands and a route in Belgium, or even more of them, or even routes that are crossing the border, so that you can switch between different train control systems. Maybe some ECTS routes in between, but that is obviously wishful thinking, and maybe we're gonna get more of it in the future. At the moment I'm quite happy that the game runs smoothly and that there's Talent 2 leaving at this point. Looks really nice, and I'm looking forward to Train-Sim World 4. Again, on Saturday I will be back at noon Central European time for a 12-hour special stream celebrating the fact that I have now reached 250 subscribers on my little YouTube channel. CD Raider says count me in. I'm very happy to do so, and yeah, I will have to make some breaks in between to let the dogs out so that they will be happy, but apart from that I will try to run a lot of services in most probably Southeastern High Speed, because AJ required me to stick to one DLC, and Southeastern High Speed is one that has so many different trains on it, so we will maybe see the TSW and Steam Locomotive, the LMS Jubilee, and obviously the Javelin, and the Compton, the class 300 and the class 33. Okay, the train kicked me out of the seat and will now probably start leaving Köln main station as an ATO train. Well, fine with me. Unfortunately, I cannot find a position where you can look out of the window properly. And I can't even switch to the... Well, we have reached the end of the represented area anyway, so there's no point in going to a passenger seat to get some external shots again. Well, that was today's stream. Thank you very much for joining me. CD Radar, was really nice to have you on the stream again, and see you on Saturday. Take care, have a good week, good night.